Hello my friends, this is Wakeangel 2001, and depending on when I get a chance to upload this, happy Halloween! This is a review of the classic Ray the Squirrel and Vector the Crocodile, who is not classic, but is a big boy. These were sent to me by one of my fans, B. Serrano, who knew that I was having a hard time finding these figures. Because every time I would go to Target, it would look like the wave had arrived, but then sold out before I had a chance to get to them. And so that I could save on shipping costs, I told him to remove them from the packaging so he could use a smaller box. But he did include the cards themselves. So Ray came in the classic figure box, while Vector came in the modern figure box. That's how you tell the difference. So the back of the boxes have a basic character description along with pictures and all that. So Ray is a flying squirrel full of energy, enthusiasm, and adventure. Capable of gliding to high up places, Ray is perfect for getting the drop on some badniks. And Vector's description, again, like you get all the points of articulation and stuff. Vector will take on any job that pays, but he'll also help Sonic save the world from Dr. Eggman out of the goodness of his own heart. Yep, so, you know, like that, it's nice to see there's a practical part of the Sonic world, you know, like you need to eat, but, you know, like money doesn't really have much value if you're being conquered by a destructive robotic empire. Alright, so the accessories that they come with, Ray comes with the Red Chaos Emerald. The Red Chaos Emerald has already been released, so this is just a redundant accessory. Now, my other friend Zach has been trying to get all the emeralds, and apparently 6 of them have been released so far. The Gray Emerald has yet to be released with anything, and the Teal Emerald, which is the only other one that I don't have, was apparently only released with a Supersonic re-release. Since I already had Supersonic, I didn't get that version of the re-release, so I don't have the Teal Emerald. But, you know, with how many times they're repeating the emeralds, the Teal Emerald is bound to be repeated in a figure set of a figure that I don't have. And then we'll get the Gray Emerald after that, hopefully. And then Vector just comes with this tiny little 10 ring. I would complain at the tininess of this accessory, but Vector is a very large figure. He's like as big as Eggman and E123 Omega, so I figure like since he uses so much plastic, they had to save by giving him a smaller accessory. But if you're going to give him a little accessory, I think like the walkie-talkie from Sonic Heroes, or maybe a microphone, like use the same amount of plastic as this, but something more unique to the character. I mean, that would have been what I would have done. So let's take a look at the figures individually. So let's move Vector off to the side for a moment and talk about Ray. Because this is his first toy representation in this scale. And like most of the classic characters, he is a bit overscaled. Oh, you know what? I feel like standing him next to Vector, he looked okay, but I need to illustrate my point. Here's what we were talking about. So as you can see, when you compare Ray to a modern character, like we're going by the mandate of everybody's 3.5 feet tall. So when you have the differently proportioned modern figures standing next to the classic figures, it makes the classic figures look like they're giant because their heads are so much bigger and they're the same height. So it just looks weird proportion-wise. But then again, that's what the 2.5-inch line is for. So when you put him standing next to Mighty, on the other hand, he does scale. I think he would be a little bit shorter than this, but he is shorter than Mighty, which is, you know, illustrating the thing. Because remember, like, Ray is supposed to be like Mighty's Tails. He's his little buddy, his little bro figure. And I could go into the epic lore of Ray the Squirrel and how he was in like an arcade game way back in the day, nearly forgotten, brought back to prominence by the Archie comic, reintroduced into the video game lore with the missing persons poster, and then before finally getting a chance to be a playable character in the game again in Sonic Mania. But I guess I already just did that, didn't I? Anyway, let's get the other two guys out of the way now that the comparison has been done, and take a closer look at Ray himself. He has a big old smile. As you saw, his skin is its own tone. He's a different color from everybody else. His little hair tufts are perfectly sculpted in. Like, this is like a perfect blank round head. Like, if I was to make a custom of anyone's random Sonic OC in the classic style, this guy would be the perfect thing to build on, because I could put anyone's hair on here. I could sculpt new spines as needed, but I digress. I'm not talking about customization. We're talking about this toy as itself. His arms are posed. Like, they're not overly posed, but it's kind of weird. Like, one comes in front of his stomach and the other one goes outwards. It's asymmetrical. Throws it off just a little bit. And I'm not sure, like, what is causing this. It's hard to tell from the pictures. I think it's supposed to be this way, but I would not be surprised if he accidentally was given two right arms. No, I don't think that's the case, because when I turn the arm around, it definitely has an armpit. So no, I did not get two right arms. The arms are intentionally sculpted this way. But he is able to bring his arms up like this for his gliding thing. So that's something that he can still pull off. And of course he has wrist joints like all the classic characters do. And he has universal hips and knee joints and little ball jointed ankles. Although the ankles are deeply recessed so they don't move too much. His tail is also on a bit of a limited ball joint, so it can waggle and it can rotate all around. It can be a little bit difficult to stand him, but if you're having trouble, remember you can always rotate that tail down and tripod him. So all is well. So yeah, this is Ray's first It's not the first Ray action figure. I believe the 2.5-inch one came out before this, but it is a good entry in this scale. It's a good introduction to Ray the Flying Squirrel in this scale. Although, like I said, because he's a classic character, he for people who are who appeal to like the generation scale, he's gonna be on display with other classic characters. And so far, that means that his only companions are Sonic and Mighty and classic Robotnik. So yeah, we're gonna need other stuff in the classic line to go with these guys eventually. Alright, now let's move on to the modern era with the Vector the Crocodile figure. And this guy is big and impressive. Let's bring in modern Sonic again so you can just see. He is a big boy, but that is to be expected because canonically speaking, Vector is about the same height as Dr. Eggman. And crocodiles are very large creatures. In fact, I think modern day Nile crocodiles can grow to like 20 feet long. So yeah, they are very big creatures. So of course you're going to get a big Mobian out of them. Sorry. I was trying so hard to avoid hitting my tripod. So let's get into him. His face is pretty well sculpted. Nice job on the eyes. He doesn't have that little eyeliner that the Jazzwares figures had. But he does have all the details on his headphones picked out. The points on his back are painted orange. His tail is sculpted to go off to one side so that this probably made it easier to put him into the blister bubble, but it'll also make him easier to display because it doesn't go out way too far behind his back. And his chain is a separate piece from his body, but it is physically attached to him. So it actually looks pretty cool the way it moves around. It actually looks like something that he's actually wearing. Articulation-wise is that he has an opening mouth, and inside of it, his teeth and tongue have been painted. Great detail. Love that. Like, yeah! And this is why I would have liked for him to have his microphone, because then he could do the Team Blast thing from Sonic Heroes. He has universally jointed shoulders, and unlike most of the other figures, he actually has some detents. Like, you'll feel it, see? When I move it, you can see how it goes into some click points, And I do believe that this is to help with articulation because his arms are so much bigger and heavier than any other characters. I mean, like, check out his arm compared to Sonic's. It is massive. It's actually as long as Sonic's entire body. So yeah, that's a big arm. So those detents really help in maintaining poses. His elbows are also detented, so that will help as well. And there is a bicep swivel, but it's a little bit restricted by the way that this is sculpted around. Like, if you give it a full 90-degree bend, then the swivel won't really work because you're hitting plastic. But if it's less than a 90-degree bend, then you can get all the way around. So yeah, that works. Wrist is ball jointed. It's one of those things where the hand has the ball, and this is just part of his arm sculpt. It's not a glove cuff. He does not have a waist, but his tail does rotate. So you can have it curled up behind him, or you can put it in its neutral place. And he has universally jointed hips and ball jointed ankles. No knee articulation. I guess they figure with how big and heavy this guy was, if they put knees there, they might collapse. Which is fine. I mean, given how long his arms are and how his legs are attached, in this case, I don't think taking knees away hurts the figure's posability very much. Yeah, like remember, articulation and posability are not necessarily related. You can have a high degree of articulation but not be posable, and you can be surprisingly posable with fewer points of articulation. So just throwing that out there for all of my fans, if they want to know my opinions on him not having knees. And in this case, I think it's much more important for this character to have elbows than knees, because, like, imagine how long and lanky these arms were if you didn't have the option to bend them at the elbows. That would have been seen as a horrible flaw. Especially because if he didn't have a good elbow joints, you wouldn't be able to put a toy microphone in here to have him belt out his tunes. Yeah! But yes, this is a very big, very radical guy. And I do believe that Jakks Pacific will be releasing a 2.5-inch Charmy. So that will have a nice little bee that will scale adequately with these, SBO and Vector when the time comes. So, yeah, hopefully we will get that Charmy in pretty soon. The next wave is going to have another huge character with Big the Cat, and the first ever action figure of Chaos Zero, which is going to be made entirely out of translucent plastic, which will be very interesting because translucent plastic figures, there have been issues about them over the years, so we'll see how that works out when the time comes. But for now, this is Toy Customizer Wakeangel 2001 signing off.